Good evening. My name is Patrick Leader from Leader Games. I am teaching you how to play Fast the Crystal Caverns. This is the second in a series of 5 videos about the roles. Of course, tonight I'll be showing you the Goblins. I am shooting these all back to back to back before going to Gen Con, so I hope I am not too tired for you. We will be replacing these videos with a more professionally shot video. This is more just to teach me how to teach the game to the video. So, the Goblins. The Goblins get a little bit of a bad rap for being complicated to play. I actually don't think they're particularly complicated once you kind of get the hang of what the cards do for you, but there is a lot of text to read. My advice for new players is to not really sweat the special text too much on the cards and just read it between turns. There really isn't a lot that the cards will have impact immediately. Anyway, it's better to save a lot of cards for later. And then play them when you need them. The Goblins consist of 3 tribes, so the Goblins are like one army trying to drive the knight out of the cave. The Goblins win if the knight is in the game by killing the knight. If the knight is not in the game and the dragon is in the game, which is all explained in the variants, you don't have to memorize any of this, then the Goblins' job is to kill the dragon, who's a little bit harder to kill. And if both of those roles are not in the game, then the Goblins are trying to smash 5 crystals, which requires a little bit of coordination between the tribes. Alright, the Goblins get these 3 tribe markers. I'm going to go ahead and use the meeples for the rest of the demonstration. I think they actually are a little bit easier to see than the 3 Goblin tribes. Excuse me, they're right here, which also have the symbol on them. There are 3 tribes. The Fangs tribe always fights one stronger than the other tribes. The Bones tribe controls how many monsters the Goblin tribes can hold, and the Eye tribe determines the strength of how certain secret cards go off. The Goblins also have this Rage token down here. My Rage token is actually my Ogre token. I only have one set of Vast right now. I sent out the others for review. And somewhere, I believe at 2DCon, I lost my Rage token. And so I need to get a replacement for that or just live with this. It's probably fine to use this Ogre. It's pretty rare that the Ogre token is actually used. It's mostly for the Knight solo game or other games that the Knight is fighting fighting the other roles when the Goblins are not in the game. So that's okay to use the Ogre. There's also a Troll token for the same purpose. Rage here then is how inspired all the Goblins are to attack each turn. The higher the Rage is, the more options they get. There's also a War deck, which determines how many Goblins are mustered each turn. There is a Monster deck, which shows specific monsters that the Goblins get when they summon monsters. And there's also the Secrets deck, and these are cards that will go into your hand. You can have up to 5 cards in your hand at a time, and you can play them on your turn to do various one-time effects to the Goblin tribes it's affecting. You cannot play these on anyone else's turn. It has to be on your turn. That question comes up a lot because you can ambush on the Knight's turn, and you cannot use cards to benefit. They can't benefit from cards played. Maybe in expansion, I have a couple ideas for cards that modify ambushes, but let's not worry about that. Okay, so the Goblins, there's 3 Goblin tribes. The Goblins then simply follow the turn summary, and you will get through your turn just fine. So the first thing that the Goblins do is they flip over 1 war card for each Rage that they have. Rage will go up whenever a Goblin tribe is removed from the board by an action involuntarily, is the best way to say it. So whenever the Knight attacks them, whenever the Dragon attacks them, or whenever the Thief kills enough Goblins, or if they pick up the Thief's loot drops, then they gain Rage. A Goblin tribe, every time a Goblin tribe attacks the Knight, or the Dragon, if the Knight's not in the game, then their Rage drops as their bloodthirst has become satiated. So that is so you get 1 card. If you get multiple cards, from having 2 or more rage, then you get to draw that many cards and choose which one you resolve, discarding the other ones. This is important because if any Goblin Tribe gains more than 4 goblins, a disaster happens, and I will talk about that in a little bit. So, let's say this was the first card I drew, was the one I was resolving. On the card you can see that the fangs get 2, the bones get 1, and the eyes get 3. So, I would just put these pieces on there, and this shows the goblin's population. These pieces are a little bit flatter than I was hoping for. I think if we reprint, we will make these thicker, but if they're hard to see on the camera, they're not too bad in real life, but I think they could have been better. The goblins then can either, you can stack your pieces up like this and move them to the board if that's the etiquette your group agrees to, or you can just leave the goblins on the board here. The goblins' population then is how strong they are. So remember when I was talking about the knight, her strength versus the goblins, this is a direct comparison. If a goblin tribe has more strength than a knight, they can attack her, and if she has more strength than the tribe, she can attack them. The Fang tribe also always has this red disc to show that it is 1 stronger than the other tribes. Excuse me, knocked that right over. If a tribe goes over 4 population during this step of the turn, you may spend a rage to ignore. First of all, you may spend a rage to ignore gaining the population that would make you go over. So for instance, if on a later turn I got this card and it was 3-eye, and I already have 3 eyes, I could spend a rage to not get those 3 eyes, making the tribe go over 4 population. If a tribe does go over 4 population, it stays at 4. You cannot go above 4. There aren't enough green discs to support that. And one of the tribes on the board has to scatter. So let me move this up. If there's a tribe revealed, so all tribes on the board are hidden. All tribes in front of the player are hidden. All tribes on the board are revealed. If there's a tribe revealed on the board, you must select it and scatter it. Scattering is an important concept for the goblins. The knight is able to scatter a tribe by attacking it. The dragons can scatter a tribe by attacking it. When the goblins successfully attack the knight, they also scatter, and when this situation with overpopulation happens, they scatter. When a tribe scatters, it returns to hiding, so it moves back to the place in front of the goblin player, and it loses 2 population. It's always 2 population. If you have 1 population, you just lose the 1, then that's fine. The red discs can stay there, that's fine. So that's what happens when you overpopulate. I'm going to put those 2 discs back because we're illustrating what's happening here. And you only have to remove 1 tribe when there's an overpopulation. Even if all the tribes are overpopulated, it's still only 1 tribe. If you don't have a tribe on the board, if they're all hidden and you overpopulate, you're probably playing the game a little bit wrong, and you do still have to choose one of the ones off board to scatter. So you also then resolve the effects down here. So for instance, in this card, it says you gain 0 monsters because that's the symbol in the back of the monster deck, and you would gain 1 secret card. So you just draw that card and put it in your hand. If you do gain a monster, let's say, just to illustrate that. We'll say that we do gain a monster. I'm going to draw a more interesting monster. Then you draw that monster, and you have to play it immediately. Monsters cannot go into your hand, and you just put the monster into the slot in front of one of the tribes. You cannot have more monsters than the Bones tribe's population, so this is the most monsters I can have. Every tribe can have 1 monster, except for the Bones tribe, who has just a little bit of an extra slot for a second monster. And that's pretty valuable. The synergy between 2 monsters can be pretty incredible. If you want to, if you're at population and you want to place a monster, you can always put the monster down into the spot and discard the other monster. That's fine. If you're over population, you cannot place the monsters. You simply just discard them. So anyway, okay. So moving on. You draw your secrets cards, they go into your hands, and then you perform your actions. Hold on, I need to pause. Sorry about that. One of the cats was trying to escape the house. Okay, so then each tribe gets one action at the end of the turn. And there are several actions. The most important action is that you can reveal. And so you reveal, and revealing is the only action you can take while you're hidden. When you reveal, you move the tribe to the board, and you place it on a dark tile. Each tribe's symbol then controls what kind of dark tile it can appear on. So for instance, it can reveal on, excuse me. The Bone Tribe can only reveal onto tiles with bone symbols on them. The Fang Tribe can only reveal on tiles with the Fang symbol, and the Eye Tribe has to go onto eyes. If there isn't a tile available with that symbol on it, that's fine. What you can do is you can lurk, which is rarely used, but if you have to, you can do this, where you reveal onto a blank space next to a tile. The next turn, then, you have to move onto the board and stop moving, and then you can continue on the turn after that. That's pretty rare. It mostly only comes up in games where the cave is collapsing really quickly, and the goblins no longer have dark tiles to place onto. The other actions then are you can move, so you can just move a tribe if you want to. Goblin tribes can move as far as they want. Through the dark, they can move as far as they want. Once they step out into the light, they lose a goblin. The goblins don't like being in the light, so they lose a goblin for every 2 spaces they exit. So for instance, if I had moved from here, and this is the second space I'm exiting, I would lose a goblin for running through the light. So you can just move if you want to. Moving can also be combined with several other actions. For instance, the goblins can attack, which is really the thing they want to do the most because they're trying to kill the knight, and she has 7 health. For a tribe to attack, they have to be stronger than the knight and move into her space, and then attack. So remember how the knight has her strength, so let's say this knight was at strength 3, and I was at strength 5. I would move along here, I would lose a goblin for leaving the second tile here, and then I'd move into the knight space. When I attack then, the knight would take 1 point of damage, and even when the goblins are winning, they're still losing. The knight kills a few of them, and they scatter back into the darkness. So they would lose 2 guys and move back to the board. So that's attacking. You can combine it with moving. Excuse me, I have to take care of the cat one more time. Alright, sorry about that. Of course, the cats have to bother you whenever you're working. So that's attacking. A goblin tribe may also plunder. When they plunder, let's get a little bit of weight under there. I'm just going to leave the pieces on the board. It's a little bit easier to move. When they plunder, they can move in on a treasure and pick it up. The reward for doing that is their rage goes up by 1 point, and the tribe stays on the board. The reason you might want to do that is the goblins have the best time controlling the cave, because the cave's omen income, which is its power, is equal to how many crystals are on the board and how many treasures are on the board. So the 3 tribes can really mop up a lot of treasures very quickly if they want to. The goblins could also move and plunder a dragon gem if they want to. The dragon rolls the die, and it's a 50-50 chance. You lose some goblins. I think the tribe scatters. It's so rarely done. I, the designer, can't remember the rule. Or if you don't scatter, if the dragon gem is not trapped, then the goblins gain a rage. Okay, moving on. Explore. Sometimes the goblins will need to create another route for their friends so they can explore. And what exploring is you move into a space that's not there on the board, and the cave player is obliged to place a tile for the Goblin Tribe, and that's their turn. This is not typically taken. It's pretty rarely used, but sometimes you need to do it to open up the board for yourself a little bit, and then another tribe could then move through there, for instance. This would not be a great situation to do it because I can just move across here, of course, but that's okay. Moving through one tile doesn't, exiting one tile doesn't affect a tribe, so this would be pretty safe to attack anyway. I think I also neglected to mention, when you scatter, you lose 2 goblins and you lose 1 monster from the tribe. If the Bones tribe has 2 monsters, they get to choose which monster to lose. Alright, moving on. Exploring, special action. Each tribe, if they're on the board, has a special action. The Fangs tribe raises rage by 1, so they can just concentrate on their anger, and the rage goes up by 1. The Bones tribe allows you to draw an extra monster card, so you can draw and place a monster card immediately, and the Eye tribe gives you another secret. Then it's just hide and reveals listed here, which I've already explained. A tribe may hide on its turn as its action. This is also rarely taken, but it's here in case you get stuck behind a bunch of walls by a crafty cave player. And if you do that, you simply just move back to your board, and you don't lose any goblins for doing that. The only other thing I comment on is when rage gets to 0, which I'll show you down here. All the tribes fight at -1 strength while rage is at 0. And at the beginning of your turn, you automatically go from 0 to 1 rage. That'll happen when the goblins are attacking frequently and aren't being attacked as often. So sometimes you have games like that where you're just bouncing between 0 and 1 rage. And sometimes you have games where you have a lot of rage and then you're in control of how your tribes grow. So that is the goblins in a nutshell. They're a little bit tricky to learn and they're a little bit tricky to play. I suggest when you are playing them, you just focus on getting 1 attack every turn. That's pretty good for the goblins, and do what it takes to get that to happen. Don't be afraid to raise your rage with the Fangs tribe when they're on the board, because rage lets you ignore, or helps you get over overpopulation later in the game. And having more cards is also very helpful in the early game. So, and don't be afraid to leave a tribe off the board to exploit ambushes that the knight's running into. So basically, the flow of the game for the goblins then is the first turn they're going to start out with 0 goblins. They're going to gain some from a war card, and then they're going to put 2 or 3 tribes on the board. 2 if you want to hold one off the board, so you can exploit ambushes, because only tribes that are hidden can ambush when the knight's moving. But if you want to strike, you could also put all 3 onto the board and do that. All right, so that's about it for the goblins. Thank you.